And then, once the Santa Fe is in harbour, it may blow a gale, blow a hurricane, as much as the devil pleases. We needn't be afraid of our island going to the bottom and the lighthouse with it." "You bet, Vasquez. When the dispatch boat has been to report about us up there, and comes back with the relief."
"In 3 months' time, Felipe."
"She will find the island in its proper place."
"And us on it,"
Vasquez answered, rubbing his hands and taking a long pull at his pipe, which enveloped him in a thick cloud of smoke. "You see, my lad, here we're not aboard a ship to be blown here, there, and everywhere by squalls, or if it is a ship, she's tied up fast to America's tail, and she won't drag her anchor. These seas hereabouts are bad, I allow. That Cape Horn has a shocking reputation, that's right enough. That the number of wrecks on Staten Island has been lost count of, and that wreckers couldn't find a better place to make their fortunes, I grant you too. But all that's going to be altered now, Felipe. Here in Staten Island, with its lighthouse, and it isn't any hurricane that could put its light out, though it should blow from all points of the compass at once. Ships will see it in time to get their bearings. They will find their way by its light, and they won't be in danger of running onto the rocks of Cape St. Jean, or Cape San Diego's, or Cape Fellows, even on the darkest night. For you and I and Moritz will be attending to the lamp, and it'll be well attended to."
Vasquez talked with this cheery confidence,
which did not fail to hearten his comrade. Felipe perhaps was contemplating much less lightly the long weeks to be spent upon this lonely island, without the possibility of any communication with his fellow men, until the day when all 3 of them would be relieved. In conclusion, Vasquez added, "You see, boy, for 40 years now I have travelled about a bit over all the seas in the old and the new world too, as ship's boy, apprentice, seaman, and mate. Well, now that my time has come to retire from the service, I could ask nothing better than to be keeper of a lighthouse. And what a lighthouse! The lighthouse at the end of the world. And in sober truth, the lighthouse situated at the far end of this out-of-the-way island, so remote from every inhabited and inhabitable land, quite justified that name. "Say, Felipe," Vasquez went on, knocking out his pipe against the hollow of his hand, "what time do you relieve Moritz?" "At 10 o'clock. "Good. And then I relieve you at 2 in the morning and take your place until daybreak." "That's right, Vasquez. And so, the wisest thing for both of us to do now is to go to sleep." "To bed then, Felipe, to bed." And Vasquez and Felipe returned to the little enclosure in the midst of which the lighthouse stood, and went into their quarters, closing the door behind them. The night was quiet. The moment it drew to its end, Vasquez extinguished the light which had been lighted 12 hours before. As a broad rule, the tides in the Pacific are of no great strength, especially along the coasts of America and Asia bathed by that immense ocean. But they are, on the contrary, very strong indeed over the surface of the Atlantic, even making their violence felt in the distant waters of Magellan. The ebb that day began at 6 o'clock in the morning, and the dispatch boat should have got under way at daybreak to get the advantage of it. But all her preparations were not finished, and her commander did not expect to leave El Gore Bay until the evening tide. The Santa Fe was a vessel of 200 tons burden and 160 horsepower belonging to the Argentine Navy. She was commanded by a captain with a lieutenant, carried a crew of 50 men, including the mates, and was employed in watching the coasts from the south of the Rio de la Plata to La Mer Strait on the Atlantic Ocean. At the time of this story, naval engineers had not yet constructed high-speed vessels, cruisers, torpedo boats, and the like. Thus, the Santa Fe's screws did not carry her more than 9 knots an hour, a speed quite sufficient, however, for the policing of the Patagonian and Fuegian coasts, which are frequented only by fishing boats.